We heard you, America.
Real America's Voice is coming to iHeartMedia.
Yes, Real America's Voice is now breaking through the white noise of the mainstream media.
Just download the iHeart app and you'll have all of us right at your fingertips.
Scan the QR code and start streaming RAV anywhere you want.
Real America's Voice, available whenever you need us.
It's never been easier to stay connected with the voices you trust.
RAV on iHeart means you can take us with you wherever you go.
This is huge. The truth on iHeart. Ready whenever you are.
From Charlie Kirk to Steve Bannon, Jack Posobiec to Grant Stinchfield, you'll find all your favorite RAV hosts in one place.
You can listen on Spotify, Apple, Pandora, or Amazon. RAV is now available everywhere you get your podcasts. All you need to do is scan the QR code right now.
Download the iHeart app today and get ready for Real America's Voice.
Scan the QR code and join the RAV movement.
Good evening, America. Welcome to the Monday edition of Just the News, No Noise. I'm your host, John Solomon, reporting to you as always from Washington, D.C. and the WiredToFishCoffee.com studios. You know this now. Wired to Fish Coffee is the official coffee of Just the News, not only because it tastes great, but because it also does good. With every cup of coffee, they give 25% of the proceeds to conservation organizations and Christian faith organizations, two things that matter a lot to me. And you can get a fantastic 10% discount on their best coffees or all the other items in their store just by using the promo code JustNews or point your camera at that QR code. That'll get you started even faster. All right, we start tonight's broadcast with an update on how much Washington has changed since President Trump took office. From tariffs to DOGE and executive orders to border security, America is already fundamentally different from the Biden era. And that is true here at this show, too. Joining me in studio tonight is a familiar face, my co-host, Amanda Head, who did such a great job carrying the show last week. But starting today, she's joining in a second capacity as the brand new White House correspondent for Just the News. That's right, she'll be covering President Trump inside the White House here in Washington. Amanda, I'm so excited to have you in this second capacity. You did a great job last week. It's going to be a fun ride at the White House.
Thank you. Yes, I don't consider myself to be a hat-wearing person, but I guess I'm wearing many of them now these days.
You are indeed.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to
Podcaster,
it.
TV host, right? Yeah.
I know. And I had a lot of people who, when I announced the new position, they said, what's going to happen to the show? I said, don't worry. The show's still there. The podcast is still there. Everything is still covered. So I'm so delighted to be here, but there are a lot of things going on in the news cycle, so I want to make sure I get to that. So one thing that we are not changing is our commitment on this show to break news that you can't get anywhere else, and tonight we are doing it again on a subject that burst onto the scene this past weekend, when Elon Musk and President Trump decided to end the years-long folly of waste, fraud, and abuse inside the U.S. Agency for International Development, America's foreign funding arm. Now, after decades of harrowing stories of wasted money, President Trump decided to kick out the agency's leadership and lock out its Washington bureaucrats with a plan to shut it down and move it back under the State Department. Now, of course, predictably, liberals and their allies in legacy media yelled that the sky was falling and national security was being wrecked. But actually what happened was accountability was being handed out to an agency with a long and abysmal record on managing tax dollars sent to faraway places. Now, Just the News has confirmed that just days before Musk jumped into action, USAID's management received this stinging memo from its international watchdog rebuking the agency for failing to vet foreign aid recipients for terrorism and criminal ties and refusing to pressure the United Nations to properly account and manage the U.S. tax dollars it has received. And the memo is chock full of shocking revelations. And we're going to have more on that over on justthenews.com, as you are always reporting on great stuff just like this.
Yeah, it's an amazing memo. They weren't vetting for terrorists. They weren't looking for fraudsters. Mm-hmm. When the UN wouldn't tell them whether they were moving bad actors around, they just kept giving them money. They didn't demand accountability. We'll have all the details tomorrow, man. It's going to be a fun one.
Absolutely.
Good story. Yep. Good. All right, so news media were also crying the sky was falling when Trump imposed tariffs on Canada, Mexico, and China over the weekend. But their predicted market crash, well, it never happened today. Instead, all three countries made concessions to help stop illegal drugs flowing over our borders. And tonight, Trump has delayed the tariffs on Mexico and Canada because of the progress that was already made. We're going to bring you up to speed on that all night long over at Just the News. You can go check that out right now. All right, we're going to bring in our first guest right now. He's one of the newest members of Congress, one of his most exciting members, too. He's in the middle of all of this this extraordinary action. Congressman Nick Begich from the great state of Alaska. Sir, good to have you on the show.
Great to be back. Thanks for having me.
I want to ask you, we're going to get into all the news in a second, but you've had a couple of weeks to just experience Washington as a congressman. Your first thoughts about how the first few weeks of the Trump era have begun?
You know, the velocity is absolutely incredible. I think it's hard for everyone to keep up with, whether you're in the media or whether you're in the Congress. The Trump administration is not waiting for permission to proceed. They are proceeding with the full authority of the executive branch. They are fully exercising that authority, and they're delivering on the promises that were made during the campaign. And I don't think that it surprises anyone to see that when they came in, they were very serious about making substantive changes, cutting the size of government and ensuring that Americans have a government that is accountable to them and works for them. And that is what we have been seeing in these first few days.
It has certainly felt like whiplash news-wise. Congressman, I want to ask you, because at the same time, the DNC is hosting their voting gathering, and they voted for 2 white men, despite the fact that, especially during the election when they had Kamala Harris, they emphasized her gender, they emphasized her race, DEI. And the party that just loves DEI ended up voting for 2 white men to lead their party.
You know, it's interesting. You can tell a lot about somebody based not on what they say, but what they do. And the Democrat Party, they have a lot of rhetoric around DEI. They even within that election, they required a certain leadership to be part of other categories of people that they've defined. Those categories are they're strictly artificial. They're not merit-based. And I'll tell you, any organization, I don't care if you're Republican, Democrat, if you're in the government, if you're in the private sector, you've got to have a merit-based approach to hiring to get the very best out of folks. And the Democrats have once again fallen victim to identity politics. And it's going to be very hard for Democrats to walk away from identity politics. They've essentially evangelized their base to the point where the base has religion around identity. And that base is not going to be satisfied unless their leadership continues down that line of thinking. But Republicans and common sense independents around the nation are done with DEI. They're done with identity politics. And the Democrats appear to have learned nothing and doubled down on that failed formula.
Yeah, that's a great point. And they did create a religion around it. It's so remarkable. So I want to dive in a little bit more on that USAID story. I think the media and their allies and the liberals all jumped to the world is going to fall apart. Security is going to be jeopardized by this. But it really turns out USAID has been a ticking time bomb of bad management for years. It's sending tens of billions of dollars without really accounting for it, and sometimes it ending up in bad actors' hands. This memo we got today affirms that even its own watchdog was telling the agency, you're not doing a good job. How does that story get to the American people? How do we educate Americans to make sure they understand we're trying to make foreign aid better and more effective?
Well, that's right. I mean, what we've seen in this memo and some of the revelations over the last 24 hours is that USAID funds, taxpayer funds, were used for things like regime change, where ostensibly they were supposed to be used for humanitarian assistance. And when those funds are being misdirected and redirected, when agencies like this have lied to the taxpayer and obfuscated where those funds are going, they need substantial reform. And I think putting USAID back under the State Department is a good first step. I think a number of these programs need to be canceled. Those that remain need to be tightly reviewed, and there need to be accountability metrics built around programs like these to ensure that taxpayer funds are being spent responsibly. And this is true not just with USAID, but across the government. And it's of course, kicked the hornet's nets of the left, because these folks rely on programs like these to fund their activist efforts, both inside and outside government. But there's a new sheriff in town, and we're finally getting some accountability, the kind of accountability that the taxpayers need. I remind people, look, think about a single mom. She's got a couple of kids at home. She's working 2 jobs to make ends meet. How much of her taxes should go to fund programs like these? The answer is none. And, that's the story that so many Americans across the country share. They deserve a government that's going to be accountable to them, because they're working hard to fund all these things. And sometimes people in D.C., forget that.
Absolutely. Sir, the notion that President Trump is putting America first and such a stark contrast to the last administration, do you think that was one of the main drivers behind the fact that not just China, not just Mexico, but also Canada, all three of them capitulated to President Trump?
I think they recognize that President Trump, of course, is right. We have substantial trade imbalances, and when tariffs go into effect, they hurt these other nations far more than they're going to hurt us. And look, what are we looking for right now? We're looking for partners who will ensure that the American people are safe. There's well over 100,000 deaths every year attributable to fentanyl overdoses. And that fentanyl is coming in from both the southern border and the northern border. And we expect the people who border our nation to be partners in ensuring that we have a safe environment in the United States. And President Trump made that very clear. He said, look, I need you to be a partner here. And if you're not willing to do that, if you're not willing to take the steps necessary to safeguard our interests, then we're going to impose some pretty significant penalties against you until you see the light. And I'll tell you what, they saw the light within 24 hours.
Yeah, they did. It's remarkable how quickly capitulation occurred. So I want to ask a little bit about a subject that's close to your heart. You serve on the House Transportation Aviation Subcommittee. We're still coming to grips with what happened here in Washington, D.C. with that tragic accident. It's one thing is very clear. The FAA has known for a long time it had an air traffic controller problem, and it didn't seem to solve it. How does Congress get involved in a way that makes sure that this is solved for the long term?
Well, I think that what we're all looking for is that draft NTSB report that's going to be coming out that will provide us with additional clarification and information, and hopefully some recommendations on what can be done to assure that a tragedy like this does not occur again in the future. You know, the opportunity that we have before us is to make air transportation safer. We need to take every opportunity to do that. I think there are things that can be done on the technology side, on the process side, and the staffing side to help ensure that this does not occur again. And I assure you that the Subcommittee on Aviation and the Transportation Infrastructure Committee more broadly will be taking a look at exactly those kinds of issues.
Yeah, important stuff. Important work ahead.
Yeah, and sir, Vice President Vance had spoken to the connection between what happened in the Biden administration and some of their policies that led to this. And there are obviously control tower people who wanted to be a member of that and do that job who were kept out of the agency. When it comes to the safety of the American people and reflecting back on those policies, how do we move forward and adjust those? Is it going to take Congress to do it?
I think Congress absolutely has a role. And the reason that Congress has a role is because many of these policies shift from one administration to the next. When a Democrat is in the White House, there's one set of policies. When a Republican is in the White House, another set of policies. Congress has to use its power to ensure that these policies can't change from administration to administration. When it comes to the safety of the American people, this should never be a political football. And we have to take that authority away from the executive branch to ensure that Americans remain safe no matter who's in that office, and that government agencies like the FAA and others don't become overly politicized, because they, at the end of the day, they have a mission of service to the American people.
Yeah. Sir, I know you've weighed in quite a bit on the inflation crisis that Americans have dealt with for 4 years. Tell us where you think this goes. When can people start to see relief from inflation? And what do you think President Trump's ability to cut these agencies will do to interest rates and inflation?
Well, I think it's so important when you look at what really drives inflation. It's government spending, and it's government spending that is financed by the Federal Reserve through money printing. And when you increase the money supply without increasing the amount of goods and services available for purchase, you're going to get inflation. It's very simple. And so I think that what we're seeing is a significant cut in superfluous government spending, B, a commitment to ensure that production and production capacity goes up significantly. So if we can cut back on deficit spending and we can increase production, those are the ingredients necessary in order to achieve a less inflationary environment. And I think that's what President Trump and his team are doing. They're doing a multi-pronged approach, pursuing a multi-pronged approach to ensuring that we have the capacity to be sovereign and independent from a supply chain perspective, but that we're cutting government back to a rational size at the same time.
Yeah, you did a great job on X today, helping people understand how money supply and inflation are tied together. It was such a great thing. Everyone should take a look at your X account. Really, really well done. Congressman, it is a great honor to have you on the show today. Thanks for joining us. We're certainly glad you're in Washington these days. Good to have you on today. All right, folks, after the break, Mike Benz, the man who created the Foundation for Freedom Online and all weekend long was being quoted by Elon Musk on USAID. He's going to join us to talk about why Elon Musk picked USAID as his next target and react to the memo we just put on front of the screen just a little bit ago. We'll have all that right after our message.
You are not hidden. There's never been a moment you were forgotten. You are not hopeless. Though you have been broken, your innocence stolen. I hear your SOS, your SOS. I will send out an army to find you in the middle of the darkest night. It's true, I will rescue you.
On streets across America, young people are homeless, abused, in danger. Covenant House is helping young people with nowhere else to turn. But the need is overwhelming. Please call or go online now with your gift of $19 a month. You'll help provide hot meals, safe shelter, medical care, and love to more than 2,000 young people who sleep at a Covenant House every night. Homeless young people are afraid and alone. Your monthly donation right now will show them they are loved and safe.
I have no words to express how Covenant House changed my life.
Call or go online now and give just $19 a month. We'll send you this comforting blanket as a reminder of the difference you're making in a young person's life.
I will rescue you.
Call or go online now to safeplacetosleep.org.
Welcome back to Just the News, No Noise. Whew, a lot of news coming out about USAID today because the Trump administration is trying to get a handle on where of our American taxpayer money is going, and he is enlisting the help of Elon Musk and Doge to find out. So joining us now to discuss more about this is the executive director of the Foundation for Freedom Online, Mike Benz. Mike, good to have you back again.
Great to see you guys. How are you?
Good. Thanks so much for being here. And I know that you've done a deep dive on USAID, and Elon Musk has been very supportive of the information that you've put out there, retweeting you over and over and over again. When it comes to USAID, I mean, there are so many agencies in Washington. Our last guest, Congressman Begich, said, what did he say, superfluous government spending? And I thought to myself, that's a little redundant. What is it about USAID what is it about that put it in the crosshairs of Elon Musk and caused him to triage it?
There's several things. There's the sheer size of it. You know, you have a $40 billion budget, which is, basically approximates the size of an intelligence agency. And I think a lot of it is because USAID is notorious for funding the darkest, most controversial, most horrifying projects known to all of mankind, from funding the Wuhan lab to funding the irrigation of crops for heroin production, to funding the production of fake social media websites to lure people in and then get them to overthrow their governments, to even setting up fake HIV clinics in order to use as cover so that regime change and government subversion work can be done under the cloak of public health institutions. USAID has systematically corrupted both American and world trust in the institutions that keep society going. But frankly, on a personal note, I was not sure how I felt about all of that until I discovered the sheer and staggering depths of USAID's role in the construction of the internet censorship apparatus that took down free speech in America, starting in 2016. And that was really the final straw for me, because you can make the argument that we do all these dirty deeds just as we do in the intelligence world. I consider USAID to be an intelligence agency. We do it even though it looks unseemly and it's cloak and dagger, but at the end of the day, it expands American influence. And it expands our ability to, create import and export markets and obtain natural resources or secure military bases or favorable trade terms. But the fact is when USAID began to be weaponized against American citizens and played a dominant role in American politics and really played a key role for 8 years in this country, ending the First Amendment as we knew it, that's when, me personally, I felt like I had to take the gloves off and say, actually, this is a rogue agency. It needs to be shut down. We need to start over on the fundamental contract of what actually goes on with these type of operations.
Yeah, you did such a great job, Mike, of just showing USAID's role in the censorship complex. I want to talk a little bit about what happens to USAID. Musk and Trump said today that they're going to try to shut it down. It's actually an agency that most people assume is under State Department, but it was sort of created not to ensure American influence abroad, but apparently to ensure the independence of bureaucrats, because bureaucrats basically run this. Talk a little bit about the history of its sort of one-offness, that it kind of on its own does its own thing, and what Trump and Musk are likely to do with it.
Well, that's one of the great ironies of this, which is that I've been instructing people for the past several years to see USAID as the U.S. State Department, and to not draw an inch of daylight between USAID and state. And you have to understand, the CIA was supposed to originally be parked under the State Department. If you read George Kennan's 1948 memo, the inauguration of organized political warfare, right when the CIA was constructed, they wanted to park CIA operations directly under state, but felt that it had to be an independent agency in order to ensure that the fingerprints of the State Department were not on the gun of CIA work. And that was the same fundamental operating modus operandi for moving USAID as into an independent aid agency outside of the State Department. But I consider USAID to be essentially a mutant baby of CIA and state. But the implications of it are that USAID gets access to areas that the State Department cannot, under the ruse of being a humanitarian group and having humanitarian workers. They can get into places that diplomats cannot. They can get into local populations. They can get into institutions. They can get into government facilities. They can trespass where the American State Department technically would not be allowed, or would draw eyes or the ire of local governments. And so it's very useful as a sort of intelligence cloak for the sort of things that the State Department would want to do anyway. So I do find it ironic that the plan is not so much to shut down USAID, although it is very powerful symbolically. This is a huge, moment in the history of American statecraft, what's happening today. Yeah. But my concern is that killing USAID does not actually end USAID operations, simply closing down the building and moving under state. This could end up just giving the State Department a USAID herpes infection, unless the underlying operations are treated on a permanent basis, and both the funding and the structure of what we do undergoes serious reform.
Yeah.
That is not a visual I needed on a Monday, but
just kidding.
Yeah. Mike, I want to ask you about this NGO consortium that threatened Vladimir Zelensky. I mean, weeks after his election, talking about these red lines that are not to be crossed. I don't know what it is about the United States and Ukraine. It almost feels like there's a laundering aspect to it when it comes to regime change and all of the forcing of policy on that country. But what was this about?
Well, this was May 2019, 1 month after Zelensky was elected in Ukraine. And this is a standard issue. USAID does this around the world. This is how USAID, in some respects, controls the world in the way that the CIA used to and still does through its interlinkages with USAID. But effectively, American statecraft works through its soft power projection through what it calls democratic institutions. And, we say that democracy is the good guy, autocracy is the bad guy. So democratic institutions are good guy institutions. And good guy institutions can take the form of media institutions, government institutions, regulatory institutions, financial institutions, nonprofit and civil society and academic institutions, you name it. But basically it means good guys. They're on our side. And we get them on our side by paying them money and having them sign USAID grant agreements or getting State Department grants or contracts. Either will co-opt existing institutions or will create new ones, new NGOs. And so what we do is we do a civil society encirclement tactic. We do this everywhere. This is standard operating procedure. And the governments in power who are dependent on U.S. financial or security assistance or trade relations or you name it, or just simply fear the U.S. government overthrowing them, listen to these democratic institutions, these USAID grantees that effectively serve as a shadow diplomacy force for the U.S. government, because the U.S. government doesn't want to get caught on hot mic like Victoria Nuland did, dictating the terms of another country's government. We call that autocracy. We call that meddling in foreign elections, and we say you shouldn't do that. So what we do is we send in the USAID NGO swarm to do it, and everybody in that country knows that represents the U.S. government because they're all funded by the U.S. government. And what happened in this case was Zelensky was threatened with 25 red lines not to be crossed, which was USAID basically saying through its 70 undersigned NGOs that Zelensky could not participate in any negotiations with Russia. This is in 2019, before the war broke out, without those civil society institutions, those USAID cutouts present at the negotiating table. He was not it was control over their media institutions, not being allowed to host certain kinds of content. It was control over the language, not allowing, for example, the Russian language to be played on Ukrainian state media or Ukrainian state radio. Basically, balkanizing the country and not allowing any unification between the ethnic Ukrainians and the ethnic Russians. It also banned Zelensky from being able to do any sort of structuring in the energy space or with respect to Ukrainian banks. For example, it forced Zelensky under the red lines to go through with the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, its plan to privatize the state's energy assets and turn them over to Wall Street and London investors like George Soros. And so Zelensky was a puppet of USAID's civil society encirclement swarm from practically the day he took office.
It's amazing. I have an idea. Donald Trump should declassify all the documents around the 2014 Maidan Revolution to let us know whether the United States government played a role in ousting a democratically elected leader of Ukraine. It seems to follow from the narrative you have that maybe it started earlier, but that's something Donald Trump could do that would be a big help.
I think Victoria Nuland would probably leave town if that happened.
Yeah.
John, can I make 2 quick points on that?
Please.
One is there's a great quote in 2014 from Chris Murphy. Yep. Senator Chris Murphy, who today was protesting outside of USAID HQ, saying this is an attack on democracy to have the democratically elected government reorder the executive branch. Well, Chris Murphy proudly said on live national television, as the Maidan Square successfully overthrew that democratically elected government in Ukraine, that this was only made possible because of the U.S. government pressure to overthrow that regime. Chris Murphy straight up said it. Yeah. And he was boots on the ground there with John McCain at the time. But the second thing I want to just memorialize perhaps in this segment is that, John, you had a great idea a few months back about an additional round of Twitter files because of the censorship by the American government and by U.S.-funded NGOs that pressured tech companies as well, put a huge amount of pressure to censor various forms of various American narratives amongst Americans about the Ukraine situation. For example, you are not allowed on Twitter to say the CIA whistleblower's names, Eric Ciamarella. You are not allowed to say his name on Twitter. Well, did someone at the federal government tell Twitter that they shouldn't be allowed to say that? Was that done through an NGO interlocutory? It would be great to be able to get the Twitter files of what really happened in Ukraine to American social media, but to be able to talk about scandals in Ukraine in 2019, 2020.
I love that idea.
Yeah, that's great.
That's a great idea. You come up with the best, Mike.
Absolutely. And whether it's U.S. aid or the CIA, whenever I hear that version of statecraft described as we're the good guys and we're on your side, I always wonder if that means the American people's side. I'm a little bit dubious. Mike Benz, the Executive Director of the Foundation for Freedom Online. Always a joy to have you here. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks, guys.
All right, everybody. Coming up after the break, Angela Stanton King is going to be here to discuss her new book and much more.
Hey, folks, did you know that American homeowners have over $32 trillion in equity? That's an amazing figure, but you know the bad news? Criminals are targeting it with a growing scam the FBI calls house stealing. Scammers can transfer your title right out of your name using a one-page document they file at the county. Then they can take out loans against your equity, even sell it behind your back. And the scariest part, you won't find out about it until collection or foreclosure notices start arriving in your mailbox. Now, that is something you don't want to have happen, leaving you, of course, when that happens, in a financial and legal nightmare. The best way to protect your equity is with Home Title Lock's exclusive $1 million triple lock protection. This service offers 24/7 monitoring, urgent alerts, and if fraud should occur, the U.S.-based restoration team will spend up to $1 million to fix the fraud and restore your title. So, when was the last time you checked on your title? If you're like me, the answer is never. And that's exactly why scammers are counting on you to fail. The good news is for 2025, Home Title Lock is offering you 25% off. And you also get a free title history report when you go to HometitleLock.com and use my promo code JTN25. Now make sure you check out the $1 million triple lock protection details when you get there. One more time, go to HometitleLock.com, use the promo code JTN25.
I'm an artist and I'm in my studio. I'm hearing the ads about Relief Factor and I've got pain in my neck and it's getting worse. And I'm thinking, well, I'm going to go ahead and order this. 2 weeks later and I've got much better range of motion. I'm able to carry these big canvases around. I'm just very, very grateful that I gave the product a try.
If pain is affecting your life, give Relief Factor a try. Call or go online. Get your 3-week quick start for only $19.95. Fight pain naturally with Relief Factor.
In a crisis, your number one need is food. But here's the good news. 4 Patriots is offering a special buy one, get 2 free deal on its best-selling 72-hour survival food kits. Hurry, go to 4patriots.com now.
If anyone has told you that gaining weight, feeling tired, and struggling with nagging digestive and joint issues is just a part of getting older, they are wrong. My name is Dr. Stephen Gundry, and after years of struggling with these same issues, I found a new way to support my health at home by making one simple change to my diet. It's called BioComplete 3. BioComplete 3 works by restoring your gut health from the inside out. This is a major part of how I lost 70 pounds and have kept the weight off for 25 years. It's not just me. This is working for everybody. Joe helped his gut health, and you can see the changes, not just how he looks on the outside, but how much better he felt on the inside.
I was 270. I'm now 140. It just feels amazing. Thank you, Dr. Gundry.
I helped all these people achieve incredible changes to their weight, their digestion, even their skin. And for a limited time, you can try BioComplete 3 risk-free for 90 days. Go to guthealthsecret.com.
Attention homeowners. Are you behind on your mortgage payments? Is the bank threatening to take your home? Is your home worth less than you owe? If you answered yes to any of these questions, then you need to call this number right now.
Call 800-714-8615.
All right, folks, welcome back for the commercial break. A little breaking news. We just learned from the White House that President Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will have a press conference tomorrow after they meet to talk about the Hamas peace ceasefire and other things going on in the Middle East region. I expect to hear maybe some news about warming relations with Saudi Arabia. That's another thing I'm hearing a lot about as well. All right, joining us now, the author of the new book, King, Trump, Kennedy, Rescued by King, Pardoned by Trump, Positioned by Kennedy. Her advocacy famously got a pardon by President Trump and a role in his first administration working on criminal justice. We're glad to welcome back to the show, Angela Stanton King. Angela, good to have you on the show.
Wow. Hi, John. It's wonderful to be here.
Congratulations on a very powerful book. I know this is going to make a lot of waves all across the country. Tell us what motivated you to write it and why it's so important at this very moment in history.
Wow. King Trump Kennedy is a book about my life, of course. It's a memoir, and it's about the wonderful work that I've been able to do with each one of these families, these legacies, and how the most unlikely of alliances can come together for the betterment of America. So King tells the story of me working with the King family for 20 years on community restoration. Trump tells the story of me working with the Trump administration on criminal justice reform. And Kennedy tells the story of me working directly with RFK to fight for our medical freedom, then becoming a senior advisor on his hit campaign and being partially responsible for the forming of the Unity Party. RFK and Trump are two of my favorite people, so I fought very hard to bring them together. And I don't know if anybody is more excited about this than I am.
Yeah.
Wow.
Angela, something else that you fought for during President Trump's first administration was the First Step Act and the Second Step Act. And I know that there is a lot of reform to be done, continuing reform, building on what was done during that first term. What do you want to see expanded in his second term?
Well, you know, there's a lot of talk now because Trump actually won this presidency being a convict, if you want to say, even though we know that there are trumped up charges. But this just tells me that Trump is going to fight extra harder to make sure that the path to reform is more accessible. I mean, I do believe that when somebody has completed their sentence and they've served all of their time, you know, and paid their debt to society, that dependent on a charge, you know, they should have a fresh start on life. They shouldn't even need a pardon. So the fact that you have to continue to walk around being labeled as a convicted felon after you've been reformed is absolutely ridiculous. And cannabis reform, I mean, listen, we have people in prison right now that are serving life sentences for marijuana, and they've legalized it in nearly half of the states. Those are some of the things that I'd like to see. I know Trump is going to do wonderful work with criminal justice reform. And then my guy, RFK, the confirmation hearing is on tomorrow. He's going to do some wonderful work with making America healthy, because one of the things we have to address in the criminal justice world is mental health. You can't send someone to prison for 20 years or 25 years and get them out and then think that there are no mental health issues that need to be addressed.
Yeah, very well spoken, very true. One of the great characters in your personal story is Alveda King. We love her. We've had her on the show many times. She's such an awesome person. Tell us a little bit and remind the audience how you and Alveda became connected in the role she played in your life.
I just love Alveda. Do you see how I just smile when you say her name? I think she kind of has that impact on all of us. Alveda was someone that I met when I got released from prison back in 2005. I didn't have anywhere to go. My children and I were homeless, and we were searching around looking for shelter, and we came to a women and children's crisis center, and Alveda was the woman that was working behind the desk that day. And she took me up under her wing. She eventually gave me a job, helped us get an apartment, get on our feet. And I worked for 20 years with her and her family on restoring our communities. Eventually got married to a king. That's how I got the last name. A lot of people get confused on that. But it's just like the story of Joseph. You know, Joseph was abandoned by his brothers. He went to prison. He found favor with the king. And God loves me so much, he says, I'm going to give you the name and the family. Then my relation with Alveda, of course, led to me meeting Donald Trump. She asked me a few years back if I would go in and tell Trump my story about criminal justice reform. And I went in and I shared my story with Trump about how, you know, I was pregnant and forced to give birth to my daughter chained to a bed for a nonviolent crime. President Trump not only changed the law to make it illegal, but he gave me a full and unconditional pardon. I went on to run for office to continue to fight for criminal justice reform. And then from there, that's when I met RFK when COVID hit. And now working directly with RFK as a senior advisor, just focusing on everything that we could possibly do to make America healthy.
I love it. Angela, you have such a great story, but you also have such great perspicacity when it comes to politics and reading the tea leaves. And RFK Jr. is going to be up for a vote soon. He's got another meeting for his confirmation process. What do you anticipate is going to happen?
You know, I tell people this all the time. We see stuff in the news, but I really think that RFK is the one person that has the power to shift this political atmosphere. He is the one that brought us together. When he switched to independent and I had the opportunity to work with him and his team, it made me realize that America was ready to put people over party. And the one thing that we can all agree on is health. We all want to be healthy. We all want our children to be healthy. This isn't a fight between the left or the right. This is just the right thing to do for our country. And I've got faith that he is going to be confirmed. And I'm excited about the work that he's going to do and the work Trump's going to do. It's going to be an awesome 4 years.
Yeah. We've got just a few seconds left. And I want to ask a little bit about the Najee Harris proposed legislation. I know this is very dear to you. It's dear to a lot of people. Tell us about it and what it would do.
Yeah, the Najee Harris law, this is a story that came out of Detroit. A 13-year-old girl was unfortunately groomed by a family member. She ended up getting pregnant, wouldn't have an abortion, and unfortunately they took her life in a very, very, very dramatic way. And I think that what we need to do is pass a law, the Najee Harris law, it's at change.org, where if you're an adult and if you are aware of a child being abused physically or sexually in the home and you don't report it, that you are also held to legal consequence. Stories are coming out. The truth is coming out. We're finding out that there were people aware of what was happening to Najee and this older member of the family. Nobody reported it. This could have been prevented. We see these things happen so many times, but you guys, you know, we are the party of fighting for and protecting our children. This is just one case of many, and I think that the atmosphere is right. The time is now. Let's make this law, the Najee Harris law, let's pass it and make people responsible for the children that we're supposed to protect.
So amazing. The work you continue to do to make a difference in people's lives. Angela Stanton King, what an honor to have you on, folks. Go get this incredible book, King, Trump, Kennedy, Rescued by King, Pardoned by Trump, Positioned by Kennedy. What a great story. Thanks for joining us. All right, folks, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to stay on that topic of making America healthy again. We'll bring you up to speed right after these commercial messages.
Here at Allegiance, we feel like American flags should be made in America.
When we started Allegiance, we were shocked to learn how many American flags were actually being made overseas.
Every flag we make is proudly crafted in the USA with superior materials.
Join us in our mission to keep the American flag truly American.
Visit showallegiance.com to order your high-quality American flag today. That's showallegiance.com.
I'm excited to announce that we're having our first ever mega sale on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save over 50% on this season's flannel sheets. Queen size only $59.98. Kings only $69.98. They sell out fast every year, so order now. Save 20% on our brand new My Crosses. They're designed in the likeness of the one I've worn every day for over 20 years. They come in men's and women's, and they're made right here in the USA. Get our 2025 6-piece My Towel sets for only $29.98. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. And our best-selling standard MyPillows, just $14.98. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use this promo code to take advantage of our first ever mega sale. But wait, remember that $75 free shipping rule? Well, that ship is sailed because right now, every order ships absolutely free.
The FBI calls it house stealing, the latest scam where a cyber thief transfers the title of your home out of your name and steals your hard-earned equity.
It's roughly 60 to 90 days for that person to even figure out that they're the victim of this crime. You start getting foreclosure notices and you realize you've got 4 mortgages on your house that you didn't even know existed.
Unfortunately, it's on you to protect yourself. You might already be a victim. Check your title status now at HomeTitleLock.com.
All right, folks, welcome back from the commercial break. A little bit more breaking news. Tulsi Gabbard just got some big news on Capitol Hill. Senator Susan Collins, often a swing vote. Sometimes she goes with the Democrats, sometimes she goes with the Republicans, says she will support Tulsi Gabbard to be DNI, the next DNI of America. That's a big win for Donald Trump and for Tulsi Gabbard. We have it over at justthenews.com. Go check it out. All right, joining us now, a very familiar face on this network, best-selling author, podcaster, fitness instructor, and host of her own show here on RAV on Sundays, Faith and Freedom. Shemaine Nugent is with us today. Shemaine, great to have you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor.
We love to have you on. We love all the great work you do. We have been talking about the importance of collagen on the show for a few months now, trying to educate people. You picked up some simple, life-changing health tips on your journey. What's one thing anyone can start today to do?
You know, I've been in the fitness industry for 44 years, but who's counting? Anyways, a long time. I've seen a lot of things come and go, and mostly January comes around, everybody wants to get in shape. They have a New Year's resolution. And then it's February now, and all of that goes away. I see the same people doing the same thing every year, trying too hard. New Year's resolutions are gone by now. But my advice is to start small. It's way easier to stick with making change that way. And the first thing, you're not going to want to hear this, but the first thing I do is let's overhaul the diet. It's no simple task. It's very difficult. So what do? You can just start with one small change. One small change can make a huge difference. And what would that be? You can just take one sugary drink or soda and swap it for one scoop of Field of Greens each day. And you're going to start feeling better and notice the difference immediately. And it's so much easier to keep going.
It is.
And Shemaine, something I've found with stuff like this is that once you start feeling those initial effects, it causes you, it incentivizes you to clean up the other aspects of your life and move in a more healthy direction.
You're less likely to eat Twinkies and cupcakes and things like that because you're feeling better. And as soon as that happens, as soon as you indulge in something, look, our bodies are made to be fueled by nature. My husband and I, you guys probably know, are pretty much, we're hunters and we live off the land, and we also grow a garden. But especially during the winter, it's really hard to find fruits and veggies. But Field of Greens is a simple way to make those changes. It's whole fruits and vegetables in one serving. And to me, it's a no-brainer. It's doctors regarding this product, they're taking all of the best essential nutrients from fruits and vegetables and carefully selecting everything to benefit specific health like heart, liver, kidney, lungs, metabolism, and even healthy weight. And each ingredient serves a purpose, and to me, that's why it works.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. I started using it about 2 years ago, and it changed everything in my life. My blood sugar went down, my blood pressure went down, my cholesterol went down, my energy went up, and it was really noticeable. And the first time you go to the doctor after you've been on it about 2-3 months, I'm like, hey, what are you doing? What's going on here? Did I change something? Like, no, I just started taking Field of Greens. For people who have struggled for a long time to get into a healthy pattern, how does Field of Greens work? Why does it do so well in just getting someone like me back onto a more healthy lifestyle?
Well, like I said, we all want to make change. But when you look at overhauling your whole diet or exercising 2 hours a day in the gym, it's just not doable. So one simple change is, and like you both said, it's amazing when you start noticing that it's working for me when I'm traveling or I happen to miss a day. I just feel tired and sluggish and, quite honestly, bloated. And Ted and I both take this, and we're busy all day long, like you probably are. But this is the clincher. Field of Greens has a better health promise. If your doctor doesn't notice the difference in your blood work and overall health, you get your money back. Like, who does that?
Yeah. No one anymore.
No, I know. And I know, Shemaine, Field of Greens, they're very selective and specific about the ingredients that they include in these powders. Tell us about it.
You know, I don't have time to go through what is going to benefit my heart, what's going to benefit my kidneys, I don't have time to do all that. I think it's great if you can be very specific in your diet, but Field of Greens makes it so simple. And again, it's just one scoop. Put it in your water or juice during the day or your smoothie, and it really keeps you going all throughout the day. And it's been a game changer for me. I got to tell you, the older I get, when Ted and I wake up, it's not even good morning. The first thing we say is, how'd you sleep? And the older I get, the more I realize it's all about how you feel. And if you don't feel good during the day, then you can't continue to do God's good work. And I heard you guys talking off air. There's so much going on right now in the world today. We have got to stay healthy. We have got to make America healthy again. With 60% of us adults overweight, we got to make these changes. We can't rely on Trump or Kennedy. It's got to start with us. And this is one simple thing that you can do.
Yeah, that's really a great point. Real quickly, Shemaine, I know you got a new book out. It's right on topic. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yes, Abundantly Well is an amazing book. I think I put my heart and soul into it, and it's simple tips that can take you through this journey. It's available on Amazon. It's a 40-day guide to weight loss, increased energy, and it's packed with my favorite workouts and recipes and motivation to keep you on track.
Yeah, pretty darn amazing. We love it. We love the fact that you're on this network, too. You make us smarter and wiser every time we talk to you. Good to have you on today. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. God
All
bless.
right, folks, if you want to go take advantage of Field of Greens for yourself, use my promo code JUSTNEWS at fieldofgreens.com, and you're going to get 20% off the discount. 20%. It's a great deal. And like Shemaine told you, if it doesn't work, you get your money back. Your doctor's going to notice something. Trust me, it's an amazing thing. All right, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, Amanda and I, well, we've got some thoughts on the day and also thoughts about being together on set now full time. It's going to be a lot of fun. But we'll have all that right after these messages.
Why is Navage trusted by millions?
Before Navage, I was not living my best life because I could not breathe. Constant nasal congestion, constant blowing of the nose. The huge difference is the fact that Navage pulls it out. It's very gentle in the sense of when that suction happens, it's literally grabbing that water and that mucus and it's bringing it out into this tank. It's worth every penny that you pay for it. This product changed my life.
Available at major retailers or online at Navage.com.
Friend, do you remember when it felt good to withdraw your cash from the bank to expand a business, go on vacation, or buy a new car? Well, today, withdrawing your own cash has become a very risky business, according to The Secret War, a shocking new research report. I just read it. And folks, I was amazed to learn why banks are now required to spy on us for the government and then report any suspicious or unusual behavior. I suggest you get The Secret War free. Just call the number on the screen, no charge, from the folks at Swiss America. And get this, did you know simply spending cash today may be enough to have you branded as a potential criminal? That's right. The new war on cash is really a war against all freedom-loving Americans. The Secret War is yours free, so call the number on the screen and you can tell them Pat Boone gave you the number.
Wow is on sale now at Cabinets to Go.
It's our buy one, get one free sale. Get your dream kitchen for as low as just $155 per month. Hurry, this buy one, get one free sale ends soon.
Cabinets to Go. Wow for less.
In a crisis, your number one need is food. But here's the good news. 4 Patriots is offering a special buy one, get 2 free deal on its best-selling 72-hour survival food kits. Hurry, go to 4patriots.com now.
Welcome back, everybody. It's the final segment. John, I just want to chat for a moment about USAID because, it's my first day in Washington, so I'm reflecting on my experience in LA. But I imagine you have the same thing here in Washington where you drive down the street and you see a business and it's something random and it's all they sell, like buttons or foam or something. And you think to yourself, how do they survive? That's got to be a front.
Yeah.
I haven't yet driven by USAID here in Washington, but I have a feeling that I'm going to think the same thing.
Well, it's been a front for bad actors for years. It's been a front for globalists to carry out agendas that may not have even been the sitting president's agenda, as Mike Benz reminded us. Listen, it's also been a home for fraud and insanity in spending for ages. When I first came to town, I did a series of projects on USAID, and then 10, 15 years later, I did them during the PEPFAR project, the AIDS project, all the waste that had occurred in that project, and it just continues on. And this is, in my lifetime, 32, 33 years in Washington now, the most serious effort to try to fix it and to fix the foreign aid process. When foreign aid is doled out in our interest and smartly, it actually does bring prestige and influence and carry out our agenda, but USAID often hasn't succeeded at that, and that memo we showed at the top of the show really illustrates. I mean, think about this. They weren't vetting for terrorists as contractors and grant recipients. They weren't checking people whether they had criminal backgrounds or criminal history of fraud, and yet they were giving out tens of billions of dollars a year. I mean, it's basic due diligence. If we bring a contractor in our home, we check the Better Business Bureau at least. It's an agency that's been sick for a long time, and finally,
but they make sure that Sesame Street and condoms and DEI are available in foreign countries.
It's crazy, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
And that story that you told us about Ukraine was amazing. I mean, who are we to tell Ukraine what they can and can't do?
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, I want to highlight a story that was over on justthenews.com regarding automatic voter registration. People who are not legal voters on the rolls, allowed to be on the rolls in South Dakota and Oregon.
Yeah, foreigners, they got on the rolls. They fortunately didn't vote in most cases. They were caught in the final vetting process, but did we want to let it get that close? Why? That automated registration just can't decipher between citizens and non-citizens if you don't have a voter identification requirement. And I think that's why President Trump is pushing for a national voter ID. New polling data out, I think today from Rasmussen reports 77% of Americans support voter ID.
Yep.
It's a no-brainer except for Democrats who always oppose it and want foreigners to vote in our election, which Americans don't want. And I think that gets to the larger subject. I know you got a great story coming out tomorrow. I can't wait to read it. On the message that the Democrats continue not to receive from the American public, right? The two white guys, and again, I'm a white guy, so I have nothing against white guys, but all right, after all the DEI preaching, they picked two white males, and these are guys that have doubled down on all the issues that the American public just rejected in the 2024 election. And I'm wondering, what is it going to take for the Democratic Party to get that V8 moment when go, oh, wait, we're on the wrong course? I don't know.
I don't know. It reminds me, I'm trying to remember the name of a fish. It starts with an R, but it sucks off of the skin of sharks. It sucks off algae and, all different types of bacteria and nutrients for this fish. And it's almost like Democrats are the fish, Democrats are the fish. The shark is DEI. The shark has died.
Yeah.
But they are still trying to suck nutrients off of that shark.
Nick Begich said it right. They created a religion and they can't get away from it now. They've created a cult around identity politics that just isn't what Americans think. We're a country of merit. And whether we like it or not, we were born that way. We grew that way. Manifest Destiny was all about merit. And the Democratic Party have tried to destroy the system of merit. And the more they try to destroy it, the more they get rejected by the American public. It's pretty remarkable. Speaking of merit, Donald Trump's had a pretty good day. I would say 3-0 on the tariff front. You got China to agree to talks, Canada to fix our northern border, Mexico to fix our southern border. All the demagoguery in 3 days leading up to today, warning that the market was going to fall out of the sky and all of the world was going to come in. National security is going to be jeopardized. And we're actually safer on the northern and southern border tonight. The markets were fine. It went down a little bit, 170 points, but that's just a normal day. It turns out that Donald Trump may actually have known what he was doing.
Absolutely. Well, and as you and I joked about earlier, it's Donald Trump 3 and credit 0, because I'm quite sure the mainstream media doesn't really want to talk about the fact that President Trump put this out there. He put the chutzpah behind it, to borrow a Jewish term, and these three world leaders reacted accordingly. And you were talking about Rasmussen reports. He just put out another poll a few days ago regarding President Trump's favorability, and he is enjoying a 53% job approval rating, which for Donald Trump, especially reflecting back to his first term, when the media was after him, arguably to an even worse degree, he didn't even hit that then.
If you do what you say what you mean, American public are going to give you the benefit of that. Even if they don't always agree with it, they say, hey, you're a man of your word or a woman of your word. You did what you needed to do. And I think that's what Donald Trump is showing. And the one thing Americans never evaluate, did you do what the media say? That's been the problem with prior Republicans. They capitulated to a media that often was wrong. This president doesn't care about that. He cares about what he told the American public. He's going to deliver. What did he say on the night of winning election? Promises delivered. Promises made, promises delivered. That's my motto. And he's off to a roaring start.
All right, Claudia Sheinbaum and Justin Trudeau both committing 10,000 troops to their respective borders. At the end of a month, what happens if they don't?
Oh, the tariffs kick in. Listen, I think Nick Begich said it. The reason this worked today is that the leaders of these countries know Donald Trump is going to do it. By the way, he imposed the tariffs. He actually imposed the tariffs on Saturday. He just pulled them back because he got a capitulation, but those could kick in tomorrow. He means what he says, and he says what he means. It's remarkable. It's an extraordinary thing.
Yeah. Well, when people believe that you're actually going to do it, then the decision carries a little bit more weight.
Sure does.
All right, everybody. That's it for us tonight, but we appreciate you being here. We're going to be back here tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Eastern on Real America's Voice.
I'm excited to announce that we're having our first ever mega sale on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save over 50% on this season's flannel sheets. Queen size only $59.98. Kings only $69.98. They sell out fast every year, so order now. Save 20% on our brand new My Crosses. They're designed in the likeness of the one I've worn every day for over 20 years. They come in men's and women's, and they're made right here in the USA. Get our 2025 six-piece My Towel sets for only $29.98. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. And our best-selling standard MyPillows, just $14.98. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use this promo code to take advantage of our first ever mega sale. But wait, remember that $75 free shipping rule? Well, that ship is sailed because right now, every order ships absolutely free.
Are you